Take a deep breath. Know that you are loved. Take a deep breath. Know that you are loved. Breathe. You've arrived at the Evolving Lover podcast. This transmission is brought to you by the Online University of Love and Sexuality. We would love you to receive all of our podcasts and videos at www.uls.online. Now, here is your host, the funny, thoughtful, and loving Steve Burford. Enjoy.
Today we're here with Ken Blackman, a guy I've known for a few years now. He was on one of our previous podcasts. How you doing there, Ken?
I'm great.
Now, Ken is in Las Vegas, and he's been a sex and relationship coach for the last 18 years. So I know from personal experience of chatting with him and the work he's done, he's impacting lives around him through his knowledge. So today we've decided we're going to speak specifically around dating, and of course sexuality will come into this very much so, but what it's like and what we should know about dating quote-unquote powerful women, successful women, confident women, what that is like to experience as a man specifically. So Ken, where do we want to start with this one? Do you want to give some more context?
Yeah. So where I started to notice this and really started to kind of make sense of it was in watching in relationships, where a lot of the work that I was doing was around having the woman have a breakthrough in her own, stepping into her own power, all the places where she was denying her own intelligence, her own confidence, and what came to be revealed was the ways in which women secretly thought that their strengths, were somehow a detriment to being attractive, that they could be too successful, they could be too sexually self-assured, they could be too confident, they could be, and as those beliefs started to crumble and they stepped into their full power as human beings, all of a sudden the guy they were with, who had been their greatest supporter, behind them all the way and cheering them on, all of a sudden would start to crumble and start to have this kind of slow, agonizing death. And even the men themselves were like, I don't understand what's going on. I should be super happy, and instead I'm super confronted and uncomfortable. And what was going on was that he had become comfortable and accustomed to the role of, being her supporter, and now she didn't need that particular type of role anymore. She wanted someone who could stand by her side and was ready to play. And it was a very, very different dynamic, and a lot of relationships didn't survive it. So I started to look and see, now we have a world where there are where women are stepping into this kind of way of being, and we have a whole bunch of old paradigms are becoming revealed, even though none of us, if you asked us, we would say, oh, no, not at all. I don't have any of that old stuff, but it gets to be revealed. And so I started to see guys looking for the instruction manual for the new woman. Am I supposed to be am I supposed to top her and show up so strongly that she can finally have a place where she can experience being submissive? Well, yes, sometimes, but not as a rigid rule. And or the other one was, should I be her supportive and basically take the traditional wife role of like, oh, she's the leader and I'm the supporter and accommodating and doing all that stuff. Well, yes, that can feel good, but not as a relationship, not to base the relationship on it. So the guys were just kind of lost in what to do.
And why do you think that is? I mean, is it something from childhood, the mother role? I mean, was there a common theme? Was it different for different guys? What do you think was going on?
Yeah, what it was the attachment to some kind of model, attachment to some kind of instruction manual to tell them what to do. Like if guys were just like, if you, I don't, like they may step into the leadership role, they may step into a more submissive role, but their attachment to having a well-defined role was actually in the way of them relating in a more intuitive way. And so I started to look at what was actually working for these women. What were the qualities that a guy had that was actually working? And I kept coming back to this, and what was working for me. And I kept coming back to this word of confidence. And it's not arrogance and it's not ego. It's just how he feels about himself and how that allows him to show up. So maybe it is the confidence to, with a woman like this, to totally take the lead, like just take the lead, and she gets to have an experience and surrender to it. But it's also the confidence to to the confidence that it takes to apologize and not have any ego attached to it. The confidence to say I was wrong and not have any attachment to it. The confidence to do something, to take a new role that is right for the moment, that doesn't fit any model or isn't what he's used to doing, and to just have such rightness in himself that he can step into that. He can be awkward. He can do something that he can say, I don't know how to touch you right now, right? All those things are kind of a gestalt of what arises in a man when he has this thing that I'm calling confidence, self-esteem, where he can actually step in and play and go to all kinds of places that neither of them expected. And in order to do that, he has to let go of we as men have to let go of our addiction to having an instruction manual, a rule book, an algorithm in relating, and tap into something very, very different and deeper within ourselves.
Yeah, listening to all that, I think there's also like maybe an addiction to leading in some guys. They want to lead everything. And whereas the opposite of that would be letting things flow. And also, what is that man's view on women's empowerment? Like, how do you empower your woman, your partner, to be the best that she can be? Like, for me, that is kind of what relationships in life and male-female relating is about at the moment. Like, it'll give her, I mean, people say don't put someone on a pedestal, but I think it's actually quite a good analogy of when you're empowering someone to actually put them on the pedestal and worship from that place. That's, I guess it's a dominant submissive relationship, but when it's done consciously and with nurturing and unconditional love, it's a beautiful dynamic. So I don't know what you make on my little rant.
Oh, I totally agree. And for me, that brings up the question of like, as you're relating to this woman and as you're supporting her to be everything she can be, do we as men, are we capable? And this was something I struggled with. I had to confront this within myself. Like, as this woman grows in her being, grows in her power, grows in her material influence, her impact in the world, to the place where it's possible I might be intimidated, right? Am I still on her side? Am I still Is she still am I still someone she can count on to call forth everything that she can do, even as she grows in power beyond, to a
Like,
state where
well,
I might,
I've got to interrupt. Like, where is
yeah,
that intimidation coming from? Like, what? Why is the guy getting intimidated by that on any level? Unless it's for destructive Holocaust levels. Like, what? Why are you intimidated?
because if he's used to the disempowered dynamic that is so pervasive, we're not even conscious of it. But so many women walk around less than what they're capable of and societally disempowered. And if he isn't aware of how he actually secretly enjoys that role of being, he can root her on from a more powerful place to draw her forth, but can he root her on from as she, for example, makes more money than him or is in the spotlight in ways that he isn't, or like we as men may not be aware of the degree to which we secretly enjoy rooting for her from societally a more powerful place than where she's at, and that gets revealed when she really steps fully into who she is.
I think the key thing there was the money that you talked about. Like, we must,
Yeah,
with this relationship with money is warped.
yeah,
If we're getting our worth from how much dollars we're bringing in, and as long as we're doing something constructive to society, it will pay in the end. Like, some roles will be paid more than others. So, like,
yeah.
fuck that. As long as you can feed yourself and like live, then you shouldn't be worrying about it.
Yeah, and it's such a revealing marker for the bigger power dynamic that exists in a society where women are disempowered, right? And as that shifts, that that kind of ambient but not acknowledged dynamic gets revealed. And so, yeah, like it's the same as when you have a best friend and you guys support each other like crazy, and then as one of you starts to really take off, does competitiveness between you, does intimidation, is there a feeling of being intimidated by the success of another human being in general? And so that certainly comes in between men and women. And so men have to find a very different way to find their value in connection with women. We just have to find a different way of we have to find the value that we bring to women that is different from anything that we are accustomed to if we're immersed in this old way of being.
I never claim on podcasts that we're going to solve every solution to every female dilemma that ever existed, but by having these conversations, we can enlighten people on what's going on so they can kind of notice and take little steps in their own lives. But what are some of these solutions of allowing a woman
Yeah,
to be in her power and empowering her, no matter if you think she's powerful or not at the moment, like giving
right.
her that empowerment? Then for me, it's kind of alien. I don't completely understand it, but not saying
Well, you
I'm not saying I'm a god of relationship, but I have got this relationship with the feminine now that I do want to empower her at every turn. Like, if I want to start running workshops in the future and I want to empower the woman that I'm working with to be like
yeah.
the head of the workshop, and not, I don't want to be the head of it.
This transmission is brought to you by the Online University of Love and Sexuality. We would love you to receive all of our podcasts and videos at www.uls.online.
Yeah. And you've done so much to dismantle the fragile ego that would be threatened by other people's bringing other people's fullness. So just in general, like God, what we're talking about is where we as men or we as human beings have this ego that's attached to whatever it is, fame, like on the one hand, fame or success or making money or being in the spotlight, but on the other, the kind of um, adoration that is specific to another human being who is less successful or looks up to us in certain ways. And when that dynamic crumbles, if we had any egoic attachment to that particular type of devotion from below, then that it is that very part of ourselves that it crumbles. And it is, I have like you, I have found that ego serves me not at all. And so, I had to dismantle any ego that I had involved in any of the relationships. And that's what allowed me to show up in a way that was actually valuable to her, not valuable in words. And I also want to say, I agree with you. Like, there was something you said in there. This isn't the answer. All I want to do is I have certain pixels of the picture, and if I can share the pixels that I've come to see to create a bigger picture that people can take or leave as it is valuable to them. That really is what my goal is. And so with that in mind, I think this kind of confidence and self-esteem that is internally generated, like you are someone who your self-esteem isn't generated from,
the external, really. I think
external, yeah. And that's important. That's what allows you to show up to other people in a way that actually is valuable to them. Your self-esteem is internally generated, and that's kind of this word confidence that I was talking about before. And I think another one is, and this is something that has become really important in my coaching and in my teaching, which is, in the world, there's so many experiences that we can have that don't require a partner. Like the most amazing downhill ski slope, if you're a skier, the most phenomenal, like gourmet meal on the planet that you can have it at the top restaurant, or any of these, like, the fun, the pleasure of standing and giving a speaker talk to thousands of people, all these experiences that don't require another human being. And so if you look at what we actually come to relationship for, what do I absolutely need another human being to experience? And it's this unnameable thing called connection. And I can only experience connection with another human being. And I can only experience sexual connection, of a really gratifying kind, in physical contact with another human being. So you get down to the basics of communication, of connection, as this unreplaceable thing that we're hungry for. And if, as a man, you start to recognize, really, my value to her isn't in being her protector, her provider, or even her champion. It isn't those things. It is that we get to experience connection together. And if that becomes the basis of how we interact with each other, I am here for connection, you are here for connection, then it levels the playing field. There's no, from there, either one of you can be the leader. Either one of you can be the one who surrenders. Yeah. Either one of you,
I'll throw a slight curveball in with, yeah, I agree that this thing called connection is why we're here on many levels. I mean, might be the only reason. So when it comes to that, what I think in this dynamic that we're talking about, where a woman might be stepping into a power and a man might be like, what the fuck? This is just a power dynamic that is conditional on that person giving you perhaps more attention than you want, because she's going off and doing her own thing, so she might not have so much attention on you. And this can happen at any stage in a relationship, when children come in, when like she's stepping to a motherly power, or this new job, or whatever it is. That attention's going away. And this is complicated. This is one solution to this complicated situation. But if that's one diagnosis to kind of this problem, or what's happening here, is the lack of attention and connection that we're getting. And one other solution is not only to have more female friends, but it's something I talked about in a previous podcast with some my guest, Buster Radvik. We spoke about homosexuality, and that is something I'm trying to be more wary of and do more in my own life. Where I have very, and I think it's the same for you, Ken, because I've seen you around women when we've met in America and stuff. Like, you have very deep connections with the female friends that you're not necessarily sexual with, and I'm very much the same. Like, those go really deep and intimate, and that woman could be married, have children, offer them, many of them do, but that relationship is very intimate. But with guys, you have to really crack them open to go intimate and into the heart. But it doesn't mean it's a homosexual relationship. It's never going to be sexual for me, because that's not my preference. But to get a sensual relationship with a guy where you're like open with each other, you speak
intimacy,
from the heart. Intimacy, I'm not having all this too much competitive stuff, which really puts body armor on us. And I think it's fun, competitive stuff sometimes. Of course, most young boys wanted to be competitive, and that will probably never go away too much. But to have this other side of us where we're deeply intimate. So throwing another solution out there to the problem.
Absolutely. And I totally agree with you. You know, one of my best friends is a guy named Robert Candell. We've known each other for 15 years. And one of the things we discovered, in the readings that we were doing, was this growing awareness that men are trained not to trust each other. And we're not really trained to have the kind of close, intimate connection that we're all hungry for. Men are conditioned and trained to get all of that from a woman. That is the only avenue where we're societally allowed or encouraged to get intimate connection and vulnerability and all these, and affection. Men don't touch each other either. And I don't mean sexually, but non-sexually. We don't touch each other unless we're punching each other. And so that puts a huge, we come to women starving, in a way that isn't necessary. The kind of closeness, what Rob and I found was that as friends and supporters and revealing ourselves to each other was a nutrient that we allowed us to show up to our women, not starving, but in surplus. And so I think friendships among men is vitally important. I think platonic, non-sexual friendships between men and women is super valuable. All these things
so
fill us in a way that we can show up in our romantic relationships.
And that also comes back to competitiveness as well, because if I'm not in a partnership now, but if I was, or hypothetically any guy out there, say you had a connection with my partner, wasn't sexual, but it was just really deep, and you wanted to spend time with each other, and you wanted really, really get to know each other. I have got to make all that work. I've not got to like take it out on my partner and like say my self-worth is now, you've got to empower to have that friendship and like be happy for the connection that you two have got. And maybe you'll like
Yeah.
be friends. I'll be friends with you as well.
Yeah.
If we didn't know each other, like actually form a deep bond. And it's like a family, because I actually been in Colombia the last 2 months. That happened in a dynamic with me. Like my yoga teacher, she spoke great English, so like my Spanish is not good enough to create an amazing friendship right now, but it's getting there. But yeah, we would spend a lot of time together. Like after yoga, we go to breakfast together, and we formed this really deep, intimate bond. And she's got a kid with her boyfriend who kind of co-runs the studio with her. So he didn't speak English as much, but he knew that we were having a like deep connection, and there was some problems there with like, because
Yeah.
he didn't quite have the self-confidence to deal with it, but he was fine with me. But with her, she was like, oh, why are you spending so much time with her? And I had deep compassion for that, because it was clear there was a connection there. But if we just take that responsibility on ourselves and realize that guy is not a threat to us, he's not gonna steal our woman. He, like, for me, I just wanted to create like have them a stronger family because I arrived,
Yeah.
not because I'm
Right.
trying to steal her.
Right. Her
So, yeah.
her connection with you, it had every opportunity to be a net contribution to who she is, and a net contribution even to the relationship, the committed relationship that she's in. So I've had similar experiences where I was dating a woman. She thought in terms of monogamy, and I wasn't thinking in terms of monogamy at the time. And so, as she started to blossom into the possibility that she could have everything, there was nothing wrong or bad in our relationship. Everything was wonderful and good. And she still, if she was honest with herself, discovered to her own surprise that she had attractions to other men. And my stipulation was always, if you come back in good shape, if you come back in better shape, I'm happy. Like, go have an amazing. You don't need to have less with other people in order to have everything you want with me. If she came back in great shape, super happy, had a wonderful time, had an amazing experience, great. I'm so glad. What made me uncomfortable was when she was with somebody else and consistently came back all fucked up or in worse shape.
So
And
how did you
so
navigate that?
I would say, look, I don't think this interaction you're having with this guy is serving you. It doesn't look like you're coming back in good shape. Like, you keep coming back fucked up. And so this interaction with this other guy is impacting our relationship. Like, I don't want to have to clean you up on a consistent basis, so that you're in good shape. Like, if he doesn't seem like he's good for you. If the guy was actually, a contribution to her life, then I was for it. And so many people's monogamy rules are exactly the opposite. Like, what they're worried about is that she's going to go off and have a better time, and I'm the opposite of that, right? So it's those kinds of things, right? Like, how much is my ego attached to this? Am I really, 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 really behind her having everything that's possible for her in her life?
Yeah, and even if it's without me in it at some points, you're
Right.
like, well,
Right.
if I can't serve you to my highest abilities or whatever, or this, you want to spend more time with someone else, then that's okay as well.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate empowering
Right.
place to serve the world and your relationships from.
Yeah. she and I were together for 2.5 just glorious years, and then she reached a point where she decided that what she wanted was something different than what we had, and I was sad, I was I
Of course, you're gonna have to be sad at
yeah,
that moment.
I'm gonna have feelings about it. But ultimately, I was like, if I'm not what it is that you want, and you have determined with clarity that that's true, let's find what it is that you want. And so she uses me as her dating coach, right? She asks me advice, and I still, we're not together as a couple, but I still care about her, and I still want her to be happy, and I still support her to have what it is that she wants. If it's me, wonderful. If it's not, then let's find it for her.
Yeah, in some points, I've even been in situations where I've just been cut off the whole thing. I think a few years ago, and probably still, because a lot of people have trauma in their bodies out there, but I was attracting women with a lot of trauma, and we would get super deep and intimate. They would have a sexual violation that would have happened to them, and the intimacy has blown all of that out of their system again, for whatever reason. They can't cope with intimacy. That I will never speak to them again, even though I had an incredibly deep connection with them. Well, and you have to be okay with that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that comes kind of on the spiritual level. For me, I kind of go there. Like sometimes souls are supposed to cross paths for a week or a month or a year, and then let each other go, and then maybe they'll find each other in this life again, or another life. Like
Yeah.
you're still serving each other. You served each other in that time,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of the way I think about that.
Yeah. And the worst thing you can do, is to demand or expect more from someone or different from someone than what they are able to give you, what they're, the specific thing that they're there to give you, which may be big or small. It's exactly the nugget. It's exactly the right nugget that both of you need, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Yeah, yeah, it's a beautiful thing when you think about life that way.
Yeah.
Then I think the ultimate point, as well as the homosexuality, which kind of links to this point, is it does link, is just having no attachment to everything. I mean, you were alluding to it near the beginning of our
Hmm.
conversation,
Yeah.
where it's this kind of Buddhist mentality of not having attachment to having attention to what an empowered person looks like, attachment to money, dynamics within a relationship, all these attachments which are serving you fucking nothing apart
Hmm.
from probably just being annoyed and really disempowered.
Hmm.
Maybe that turns into anger and rage and all this kind of thing. Drop that, be a bit more homosexual, and we've probably got a solution to this problem, Ken.
Yeah, I um the couples, the happiest couples that I've worked with so far are couples who say they readily admit, like, this person was not what I was looking for. This person broke all my expectations of what I thought I wanted. This person is so not the model of what I thought I was looking for, but there's this deeper connection that was beyond what either of them was expecting, like this luminous being to luminous being connection. And the greatest experiences that we have with people isn't the realization of some dream or some expectation or some dream that we have. It is the unexpected. And if you come in with a bunch of rules about what it is you think you're looking for, you're not open to the real thing that can exist between you and this other complex human being that is going to surpass what it is, far, 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 far surpass what you thought you were looking for, right? Like, I bet this resonates with you, that you've had experiences that were nothing like what you thought you were looking for, nothing like what you thought
Totally.
and those are the ones that were most profoundly, deeply impacting. And you have to be open to them. That's why not being attached is valuable. So you can be open to the bigger, better thing that the universe has in store for you if you're just open to what's really there between you and this other human being.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful way to end the podcast.
Great.
Sums it up. So where can people find more about your work, Ken?
I have a link to where I have articles up, but really, email me directly at ken@kenblackman.com, ken@kenblackman.com. And let's just start a conversation. It can be anything. Just write to me and start a conversation, and we'll go from there.
Cool. And you're based out of Las Vegas again, if anyone wants to meet up for coffee.
Absolutely.
Cool. So thanks for being on the podcast. Definitely a pleasure to speak to you, and happy to have you on again at any time. Cheers, Ken.
Cheers.
This transmission is brought to you by the Online University of Love and Sexuality. We would love you to receive all of our podcasts and videos at www.uls.online.